again, beer tubers. Welcome to episode 946 of the continuing saga of all the beers that are taking up space in my fridge. This time I'm going to take a look at Rickard's Dark. This is their second newest beer. Came out in, I believe, 2009? I think so. Brewed, of course, by Molson. There's actually a bit of a backstory upon Rickard's, which shows that it was launched by, I forget the guy's name, but like Greg Rickards or something. He first started brewing the dark ale, he first started brewing the red ale in somewhere around 1983, and the branding was bought out by of course, Molson. And at least in the Ontario region, their beer is actually brewed underneath of the Air Canada Centre, one of the Maple Leafs play. It's funny, Molson owns the Habs. Alright, hockey aside, this one here is 4.8% ABV. It is brewed in the style of English porters. Rickard's Dark is creamy and rich, with a smooth finish that holds just a hint of Quebec maple syrup. Well, we'll certainly have to evaluate that. It uses no preservatives, total satisfaction guaranteed, 1-800-MOLSON1. It's brewed in Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, Moncton, St. John's. Again, this probably came from Moncton, New Brunswick, which is the closest Molson brewery to me. Most of you watching this already know bits and pieces about the backstory, so I don't really need to go into detail. I'm going to pour this into my Rickard's glass, which actually was sent to me thanks to the Molson rep that runs the Facebook page. Instead of the blue, messaged me and said, "Hey, want something? Give me your address." I'm always open to donations, but I'm not selling out. What you see on my channel is what I think about the brews. So, pours a nice off brown head, like a, almost looks like a creamy color, but you can tell it's got like a lightly brown kind of look to it, and it's nice and creamy. If you can see that in the camera. Color-wise, I've reviewed several other porter beers. They often blot out the sun. Some of them are like pitch black, like Propeller London Porter. Fuller's London Porter is almost opaque. It's got a little bit of dark. It's dark up in the top, and then of course where the bottom of the glass is narrower, more light gets through, and you can see where it shines a nice ruby red. This beer, you can see pretty well all the way through it, but not very well. It literally does take on a color of dark maple syrup, like rich Quebec maple syrup. It's got a nice, almost like a reddish tinge to it, but it's kind of like a reddish brown. But to be fair, not a lot of light does get through that beer. It's a bit lighter in color for if it were truly brewed in the porter style. But yeah, as you can see that in the camera, let's see, yeah, it pretty much looks like that. So that head is almost gone now. Didn't stick around very long. So let's take a look at the smell. Practically non-existent. However, in the smell, you do pick up that hint of maple syrup. Hints of also darker malts like chocolate and caramel. But they're very faint. And there is no detectable hop character to that beer at all. Which, while the smell matches the style, it's very faint. It's almost undetectable, and most people would not pick that up at all. But you got to say that a lot of beer drinkers would probably be drinking it straight out of this thing, so the smell is not something you'll ever notice anyway for a lot of people. The difference is if it tastes good. So let's give it a taste. sweet taste on the tip of the tongue. It's got a bitter character to it. It's bitter on the back. It's almost not bitter. Like there's small bitter stings in the roof of the mouth that disappear quickly, and on the back of the tongue. But other than that, there really is no there is no bitterness character to it. Not even like a roasted bitterness quality. I mean, that bitterness that does come into it is somewhat of a half between hop bitterness, combination of hop bitterness and malt bitterness, like roasted malt bitterness, but it's very faint. What really is nice about this particular beer is that it's got a nice sweet flavor. Not sickly sweet, like light sweet. And it takes a very caramel grain, kind of toasted grain character in the back of the throat and in the aftertaste. And tad hints of that, the maple syrup they speak of, do come out. Body-wise, it's perhaps a bit watery for a porter. And the flavors aren't quite as intense for a porter either. Drinkability-wise, it's got a nice medium body to it, which certainly fits the style. It's nice and creamy too. So while it's not 100% accurate to the style, it's still a pretty good tasting beer. I'm going to sit down with this for a few minutes and come back with some thoughts. Alright, I'm back with some thoughts. Waiting for some food to finish cooking here, so I may as well give a couple words. I already know what to think about Rickard Starr. If you were to compare this with normal porter styles, this isn't a true porter. It tastes sort of like a porter. And it's actually a very valiant effort for a large brewer such as Molson to try this kind of thing, and I do very much appreciate it. But it's not really close to the style, but it's the closest to the style of porter that you're probably gonna get to while still being a mass market acceptable beer. Porters are typically kind of like a more stronger bodied and flavored than something like this. But you know what? This has actually got some pretty decent flavor going on for a beer. I mean, you could probably consider this more like a brown ale, or like just some kind of dark ale, which obviously it is. But to claim it as a porter, it's maybe not quite. So what do I think of Rickard Starr? It's honestly one of my favorite beers, and it's probably one of my favorite beers in the Rickard's lineup. The reason for that being is because you can buy a 12-pack of these and have no problem finishing. And if you're a fan of dark beers and you want a beer that you can session, this is a great go-to beer for that. And it's actually one of my favorite go-to beers as far as sessionable beers go. I've drank this beer on numerous occasions. I've bought 12 packs and gone through them, and me and my fiance just both love this beer. But is it really a porter? No. So I gotta give this a 3 out of 5. It's better than average. It's pretty good, and I do give it a recommendation if you haven't tried it, especially if you like your darker beers. But really, is it a porter? No. And that's the style that we're supposed to rate this against. But I do recommend trying it. So yeah, if you like dark beers, it's good. My food's done, so I'm going to leave you. But yeah, if you haven't tried Rickard Starr yet, I would say go ahead and try it. But I wouldn't bust yourself over going out to actually try this beer. But it's a great go-to beer if you're going to take like a 12-pack of something to a party and you love porters. So yeah, 3 out of 5.